Distinguished delegates from around the world, it's indeed an honor to speak to you on this very timely and important topic of climate change impact on agriculture and how we adapt and mitigate against it. As you all know, agriculture is the engine of broad-based economic development, and it's the most important sector for most of the poor around the globe. But unfortunately, these are also the individuals who are most impacted by climate change, because agriculture is a weather-driven industry, and it's a high-risk industry, and its risk has only become exacerbated by the impacts of climate change. And so as we look to your deliberations over the coming days, I think we need to keep farmers front and center of our deliberations. And how do we position them to manage these challenges associated with climate change and the impact that it has on their livelihoods? And so I'll just make some opening remarks on the two broad themes, adaptation and mitigation. On the adaptation front, we see that there's a tremendous opportunity, especially for the areas of integration of crop improvement, modern agronomy, advanced analytics to help with downscaled weather and associated decision-making process for farmers, and also for value chain logistics. When we look at agriculture from the perspective of smallholder farmers, Professor M.S. Swaminathan, who was the father of the Green Revolution here in India, said there's the two M's that pose a risk to farming: the monsoons and the markets. And so as we look at adaptation to climate change, we have to help farmers manage those two. Weather variability, especially rainfall variability, the impact of that is going to be most felt in this ecology here, the semi-arid tropics of Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. The thermodynamics of our atmosphere means that this particular ecology is going to see the widest swing in rainfall variability. And it's rainfall that drives the agriculture sector, especially for sub-Saharan Africa, where 96% of the agriculture is actually rain-fed agriculture. So clearly, rainfall variability is a very important constraint for farmers to manage. So when it comes to climate-smart villages, it's really integrating all of these components and giving farmers access to timely targeted information to make the very best decisions on how to manage the variability of markets and rainfall, or the monsoons. To this end, we have to think about agriculture as an agile industry and how we unlock innovation to position farmers to respond to the ever-changing environment and marketplace in which they find themselves. Advanced analytics also can help policymakers make more informed and timely decisions around policies, price support, and training that position farmers to manage this variability. And last, when it comes to adaptation, I should highlight the important role the private sector plays along the entire value chain that farmers are connected to. And what we're seeing in this digital age is an ever-increasing democratization of information that allows farmers to become a full participant in the marketplace, including areas where we have very limited infrastructure, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is really important because one of the biggest challenges we face in agriculture today is making it commercially attractive and viable for youth. I have a tremendous concern for who's going to produce food for your children. It's going to be a real challenge we face as a society when we see that the average farmer age around the globe is 65 years of age. So we have to make not only the interventions and investments to manage risk, but we also have to make the investments and interventions that make agriculture commercially attractive. So we have many challenges on the adaptation front. I'm going to briefly just point out a couple on the mitigation front. Agriculture is the largest contributor to climate change when we consider deforestation in that equation. But agriculture is also the biggest opportunity for the solution to mitigate climate change, especially as we look at soil organic matter and the carbon sink that agriculture can generate if we properly manage our soils and our agroforestry systems. It also has a big impact if we properly manage our use of fertilizer and other inputs, especially nitrogen-based fertilizers, because nitrous oxide is actually a much more potent greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide. So if we make sure that we don't have volatilization of our fertilizers by making sure we have balanced recommendations for farmers, again, we can have a huge opportunity for mitigating the impact of climate change down the road. All of this to end off in saying, how do we go about doing this? We go about doing this through partnerships. And partnerships, as I mentioned, start with the smallholder farmer, understanding their constraints, their aspirations, and really what is it that they need to realize their full economic potential. Until we do that, I don't think the interventions that we're going to be offering are going to enjoy wide adoption. So putting farmers at the center of the design of our policies and interventions is critically important. To that end, engaging farmers' producers organizations as a vehicle for farmers to aggregate and have a common voice and a powerful voice in accessing appropriate inputs, market opportunities, and knowledge that allow them to be commercially viable. The private sector has a very important role to play in scaling up these interventions and making them sustainable. And I'm not just thinking about the large companies here, I'm thinking about very small companies that serve communities in adding value to the production of agriculture and creating economic opportunity and hope for rural communities. The public sector, research organizations, extension, and other agencies need to work in concert towards delivering sustainable solutions for rural communities. Quite often we see a very fragmented approach in any government that I've seen around the world. We have rural development really not talking to agriculture, that's not talking to finance, it's not talking to other sectors that are allied to the agriculture sector. I think this is a tremendous need of the hour as we optimize our resources and work in concert towards developing sustainable, scalable solutions. And lastly, the policymakers themselves. Clearly they have a very important and challenging task ahead of them, but I think if we can really harness the innovation of today to have a better insight into timely targeted policy interventions and budget allocations that work in service of incentivizing our response to climate change, both in adaptation and mitigation, I'm very optimistic that we will not only meet the Sustainable Development Goals in 15 short years, but we will achieve that even before then. So thank you very much. Your deliberations over the coming days are very important, and it's wonderful to see such an international gathering, because I think it's out of this diversity that we come to the best solutions for the most complex problems we face in society. So I wish you all the best in your deliberations over the coming days. Thank you.